Ready?
Yeah. Oh my God, why would you do that?
So this car has to pass inspection this week, which is typical for me. I'll set up an inspection, and then the weekend before, I have to get all this stuff done. It helps me to get out here and get to work, scheduling stuff that I'm not ready for. And it keeps the projects moving along. I'll also probably do a couple other little things that I'm forgetting right now or that I'll find along the way. So, I bought a box of parts. I already put the radiator cap on, but I gotta take this all apart because I'm gonna flush the system. I bought a thermostat. I got new gas line, a new filter. There's a piece of gas line that goes from the hard line to the tank. I'll replace that as well. I got a set of plug wires. Cap and rotor and points are fine. Oil filter, oil, antifreeze. In the interior, I have to put the seat belts back in it, the sun visors back in it. I have to figure out the dash lights, they don't work, the gas gauge doesn't work, the temperature gauge doesn't work. I got the 4 new tires on it. We went through and tested all the lights. There was a couple bulbs that were out. I think this headlight went out. It looks cloudy, but we'll see if it works. I took the heater hoses off already because something's leaking in the heater. I believe it's the valve. There's a little rubber gasket in there that's a pain in the butt to get to. So first thing I'm going to do is pull it out and flush it. It's a good amount of oil there on the weekend. It started to leak a little as I moved it over here. The goal is not only to get this inspected, but we're also going to take it to its first car show and get it out there in the public. And I think we might try to sell this one. I don't know, typically the kid names the cars, and she hasn't come up with a name for this. I'm not so sure she's digging it, and it's not one of my favorites. I do like it, but I'm not sure if it's a keeper. This car has truly surprised me. I mean, it just ran and it stops. I bled the brakes, put a new master on it, and put a battery in it to start it. I think I replaced the coil wire, and it ran. And it's been running on the gas that was in it when I picked it up, and it had been sitting for 20 plus years. So the first thing I'm going to do here is just uncork this lower rad hose, take the thermostat out, and just flush everything. It looks like this is weeping right here. So I'm going to have to read up on what to do to solder that. Yeah, it's still holding water. But I don't need this to explode on me at some point. It's wet. It looks rusty. That's some brown water. I mean, it's dirty in there, but it's not terrible. I'm sure we'll get a lot more mud out. Radiator looks about the same. It doesn't look corroded, it just looks filthy. It's got a quote-unquote new water pump from 1990. Well, that's good. Those motor mounts look hurting. I was actually pulling these 2 hoses off, and I used the alternator for leverage and took a chunk off the case, but I don't think it's going to affect the charging. I got a new belt too. I also noticed this is broken. It's cracked, like the porcelain's cracked. Maybe that's why the temperature gauge doesn't work. The temperature gauge comes on and then it goes off. Comes on and then it goes off. Alright, let's flush this bad boy. Is running a hose good content? Probably not. I'll flush this out. I'll start it so the water pump moves and spins all the gunk out. So because I'm an idiot, I hooked the hose up to where the thermostat goes, and the water pump pumps the water up to the thermostat. So once I realized that, I put the hose on the top of the radiator, hooked up the lower rad hose, and when I was over here, I realized that the oil pressure switch is leaking. It doesn't appear to be loose, so I'm going to start it again with the wire off and see what I can see. definitely leaking out the switch. Of course, I'm going to clean this up, wire wheel it, make it nice and shiny, and it will probably leak. For some reason, whenever you clean these, they leak. So I'm really digging the tires on this thing. These ones on the back, they just look perfect, and the car sits so perfect. It's a win. The front ones, I think they're too skinny. You know, driving just the little bit that I did, it kind of seems to be not really all over the road, but at speed, I bet it is. But I do like driving it. I found a tag for the rear. It wasn't on the rear, it was with the car. It said 391. So if this really has 391 sure grip in it, that might explain why it can't get out of its own way in first gear. So I might take this rear end out for the wagon. I'm not sure. That wagon has a sure grip in it. It's the tapered axle, but it needs springs. This has springs. I don't know what I'm doing. Alright, one more small thing down. And then all of a sudden, it's tomorrow. Next day, and I'm back on this. I've cleaned up the water neck for the thermostat, and I've cleaned up the radiator here. It's just barely weeping. So I'm gonna hit it with the propane. The trick is not to get it too hot, and just see if I can add a little solder here. If I get it too hot, I'll end up, ruining this, and it'll just leak like crazy. But so that's the goal for that, because I need this ready for an inspection in like 3 days. All right, let's see if I can destroy this. Is there a chance I screwed this up? Yes, but you never learn anything if you don't try something. So I went a little farther. It was weeping here, and I just filled this gap in, and it started to bubble up some water here, and I'm not sure if it came from inside the radiator, which has been bone dry for over 24 hours, or just down in this crevice, or maybe it was the flux itself. I think it got trapped under some solder, and then when I swiped it again with the solder, it like revealed a hole and popped out. But all I did was fill that little trough right there. So this side is fine. I'm not going to mess with it. I cleaned it up. I don't know if it looks any better, but I don't see any obvious giant mishaps. So it's up high enough on the radiator here where if I mess this up completely, I can drain enough fluid out of it and dry it out and make a second attempt. So now I'm on to plug wires. I changed the oil. I put the oil pressure thing on and the temperature switch. I'm gonna swap out all the soft fuel lines. I got a belt for it. I got a filter for it. I got to put the thermostat in. The temperature gauge worked periodically, so hopefully that's solved. The gas gauge doesn't work, but I'm gonna replace that rear soft line and check to see that there's a ground there. After all is said and done, we're gonna take this to its first cruising, car show, something. So that's one of those clamp-on hose clamps, the pressure ones, which I like. I don't have anything against them. But the one coming from the hard line coming from the tank, the clip part is on the bottom. How does that even happen? I really want to know, like, how does... I can't even get anything in there to remove it. Let me see if I have like a small needle nose maybe. When I'm under the car, I can't see it. And I can't reach it from the back. I can kind of see it, but I can't reach it from the back. I got it. That was actually easy. I had to come in through this way with the needle nose, and then I had to push the clamp with another pair of pliers backwards, all while getting myself into some weird positions, but it's off. So for those of you who don't remember, don't know, or don't care, so this small section of soft line comes out of the sending unit into the line, the hard line that goes to the front of the car. And this little bracket is the ground. And in my mind, anyway, these are notoriously terrible. You can see the rust. I don't understand this design. I mean, that your gas gauge working is dependent on this ground. Seems kind of ridiculous. I think I found some bad news too. I can find it again. There it is. Oh my lord. Found what I believe is another rust hole, which I'm betting is behind the spare tire bracket. Probably why I didn't see it from the trunk. This thing's a piece of junk. It's not. It's so ridiculously solid. Except for that exhaust pipe. Okay, I'm gonna pull that off, put a new piece on, see if I can't clean up that ground somehow. And probably spill gas all over myself. I found what appeared to be some kind of leak. It's dripping. It's all along the rear end, just on this side. So I'm thinking maybe the gasket of the center section's leaking, but it's not wet right on the edge here, or the top, the sides, nowhere. Then I realized it's the oil. Somehow the oil that was shooting out up there from the sensor made it back here onto the axle, just the very bottom of it, and to here. Nowhere else. It's nowhere else on the car. There's a little bit on this shock. That's bizarre. It's nowhere on the bottom of the car, other than the front where it was leaking and back here. I pulled that piece of rubber hose off, and the tank started spewing gasoline, so I got a gas can and put it under there, but it just wouldn't stop. Put my finger over it. It must have just been full, as the gas gauge doesn't work. So I did the next best thing, jack the car up. I have all my fuel lines done, got all my clamps on, plug wires are on. I put the new belt on. This alternator was actually right up against the inner fender, so this belt was just a tad bit shorter, worked out better. I put RTV on the thermostat housing gasket, not really to seal it, that's what the gasket should do, but more of because there's a lot of imperfections, especially on this side. And I'll put RTV on the bolts. And I noticed when I took this apart, the thermostat was under the gasket, but it actually fits inside this. I don't know what was going on there. I should have put the gasket on this first to hold the thermostat in place, but I'm not smart enough for that. Yeah, I think I'll do that. Look at that, I am smart enough. I'm going to start this, make sure I don't have any gas leaks or oil leaks. See what works and doesn't. And I'll move it and fill this with water and make sure it's pressurized and doesn't leak. Think the gas gauge will work? That's a no. This thing runs good. Choke works. That's quality. We'll let this idle and see what happens. Something shot out of the exhaust. I don't know what that is. Strange. Okay, so I don't see any leaks. keep an eye on it. I got the seat belts in. There was only front seat belts. I had the rear interior lights working. Got the sun visors on. The passenger one doesn't fold down, but at least the driver one does. On a side note, my neighbor's putting an addition on his house by himself, completely by himself. I haven't heard an air compressor or a nail gun since he started. That's all you hear all day long is a hammer and nail. I don't understand it. It doesn't really bother me, I just don't understand. I was gonna go over and ask him if he needed help, but you know, I've got like, I don't know how many cars to deal with in my own house. And I would help him. You know, maybe I will go over and ask him if he needs help or a compressor or a nail gun or something. Just very odd. I didn't actually do anything today on that Belvedere because I took this out. I went to a car show. I'm not really big on car shows because, you know, nobody gives awards to peeling clear coat and newspaper box scoops, but it was a good time. It's more about the drive than the actual car show. You know, I say that to the kid all the time. It's definitely about the drive and spending time together and, you know, winning awards. But we enjoy it. Hey, loser. So remember I told you the horn didn't work?
Yeah, it works.
You remember hearing the wagon horn?
Yes. Why is it different octaves? Is it supposed to be like that?
Okay. So I came out here and I just wiggled the wires on the horn relay. Just wiggled them.
And it honked?
Go honk it. Oh, wait, I'll honk it. You stand here.
Okay.
I want to capture your expression though. Where's your face? You ready?
Yeah. Why would you do that?
That's the loudest old horn I've ever heard.
Okay. Okay. You don't have to keep doing it.
I wonder if that's one or both of them though.
Did you see the spider?
Yes.
That spider. It's a huge freaking spider.
I don't even know if that's both of them. I want to see if it's one or both.
Okay, let me back away here. The neighbors will not like you after
I've
this.
never heard an old horn this loud. And these are old horns. These are the originals.
Okay.
I'll replace the hose and drain it after you leave. Just gotta put antifreeze in it. I still can't get over that.
It scares me every time.
Does it scare you?
It does. I'm a little scared.
What are you gonna do?
I don't know. Help you? What do you want me to do?
Help me?
Do you want me to sit on the other side, or?
If you want.
I want to. Did you take out the tree? Did you take out the tree? So you removed it?
I don't think I touched it. It wasn't getting water.
Yeah, but where's its dead limb?
You're talking about the tree in the back
Yeah.
window trim?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you avoiding murder charges?
Look how nice that dash is. I like how that Belvedere emblem Like this inside is black.
Yeah. So what do you want to get done today?
I've got a. I don't have to take the heater out, but I'd like to because there could be a mouse nest in there. The gas gauge and the temperature gauge don't work
Are you gonna try to fix that right now?
right now. It's filled with water because I brazed the radiator. So I just filled it up with water to see if it leaked or not.
Mm-hmm.
Surprisingly, it didn't leak. But that upper hose is shot, so I gotta drain it again, place the hose, fill it with antifreeze. You don't need a gas gauge and a temperature gauge to pass inspection. But everything works. The wipers work, all lights work, even the blower fan there works. You know, the horn works.
Yeah, it does. So what's the issue here?
I think this speedometer cable is running.
He'll be back.
I'm thinking if I just like wiggle the connections, because the temperature gauge worked like once or twice.
What are you doing?
Okay, first we'll try wiggling the connector.
What's it doing?
I thought I saw the gas gauge move. How am I supposed to test this if in order to get it out I have to unplug everything?
Oh man. It's always at the 3 o'clock mark where I get tired for no reason.
Tired from all that nothing.
Yeah. Precisely.
I got it.
I'm so proud. How does your neck feel?
Terrible. You know what else is better on this car? It's the
What?
wipers.
Let's see him.
No, it's the sound the motor makes. It doesn't make a sound.
Yes.
The wagon goes. What does it do?
I don't know. It makes a sound though. I recall the sound that you're referring to.
Well, that's good. What the?
What seems to be the issue? What are you trying to do now?
Trying to take the heater bracket off the back. What's happening?
Looks like you're struggling a little bit.
Barracuda, you take this plastic piece off,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And then you can see everything. And then you can take it out if you want. It comes out because it's much smaller. These earlier cars, like this on the Dart, this plastic screws on from the back. So now you've got this giant thing that has to come out, and it doesn't. It never does. You gotta like take the steering wheel off or drop the column. So this is the ground strap from the sending unit. It goes over the rubber line, the gas line, to the steel line that goes up to the car, and this is what grounds the sending unit. And this one was rusty, crusty, and broken. So I replaced it with another terrible ground. And if you watch, you'll see the gas gauge move. Takes a second. And there it goes. That's how much gas is in it. And when I just pulled up here, I shut the car off and then I turned it back on. And because the car just stopped, the gas was sloshing around, and you can see the needle moving like a nanomillimeter or whatever back and forth. So it works. The temperature gauge seems to work now. These flexible hoses are garbage.
I think you just stated that we're gonna get it inspected, but the inspection is tomorrow. Who's cooking? Is it hot?
Yeah, it is.
You chopping its head off?
Yep.
Oh my god. Decapitated. More decapitation. I do have to leave in a couple minutes though. In 1 minute
1 minute.
or so. I'll push it to 4 minutes. How's that?
It's very generous. As good as it gets.
Filling it with antifreeze. I gotta hit the road.
You hit the road.
Bye.
Bye.
See you in 4 hours.
Well, in 2 seconds we'll be driving this to a cargo.
Oh yeah. Yeah? When's that?
Right now.
No, like actually when is
I don't know.
it? Okay. I mean right now. Okay, bye.
So I brought this to get inspected. It passed. They parked it. And it's out of gas. So I put 5 gallons of gas in this before I brought it here. And it was like 2 seconds from the gas station. The carburetor is bone dry. So I think it's pretty simple. It's either the needle and seat there is stuck. I don't think the float's shot. Or the fuel pump shot. So I went back and got some tools, and I'm going to disconnect this and see if the fuel pump is shot. That line's not coming free. You see gas seeping out. But I want to know if that fuel pump's working. If I can get some gas to leak out of here without taking this line all apart. There was no gas in this carb. They said it was running terrible when they parked it. Yeah, it's squirting gas. There must have been something stuck in the needle and seat. You know, I did the whole tapping on it and I couldn't get it running because there was no gas in the float bowl. You know, to like cover the carb and try to clear the jets out if that was it. Alrighty then. I'll get someone to take my stupid ass over here and see if it'll, you know, drive all the way home, and then I'll take a closer look at it. Alright, next shot was supposed to be us going to a cruising, but I had to deal with this. I don't know what it was, but I had to deal with it. Okay, now we're going to the cruising. We did end up going to a cruising, but we forgot the camera. It runs fine now. It's back on the road. It drives. It doesn't really have any issues other than the fuel gauge doesn't work. So, a little makeshift garage here while we figure things out. But that'll wrap it up for this one. Another car back on the road. Good thing we wrapped that one up too, because we had to get back on this thing. I want this on the road within a few weeks. And we fell behind a little, but now we're making traction. Thanks for watching. This is a list of all the part numbers that I used for this. Plug wires were 9121, the filter was 51515, the water outlet gasket was 35064, fuel filter 33032, thermostat 3358, the belt was 7575, the oil sensor was TS17, and the temperature was PS11. In the mail the other day for this beast, Veronica, our 58 Coronet. I don't really like to compare it to Christine, although people do. But the one thing that's sticking in my head right now is he buys new windshield wipers for a busted windshield. Well, I have a busted windshield, and I bought something for this that is way more expensive than windshield wipers and probably won't be on the car for a long time. Because I need to fix the floors on this in the trunk. They're not terrible, but it needs to be fixed. When I took this to that Cars and Coffee, I noticed because this thing sat in the dirt forever, it sunk down, and there's a space between the frame, top of the frame, and the floors, and all along the top of the frame is just like dried up mud and dirt and junk. It's not rotted, but it needs to be done correctly. And I want to put disc brakes on the front of this. You can get like an F body, I think like a New Yorker or something, but I'm going to do a little unboxing of what I bought for this and post that because it's something cool, and I don't know, just want to document it for the kid. She's going to inherit this mess, so it would be nice for her to have a log of all the stupidity that I participated in and how things work and what's what.